So good evening, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for being here. It's always a great joy for me to share this practice with you. So welcome. Make yourself comfortable. I'm going to do a couple of very short readings from this book by Stephen Harrison called Getting to Where You Are. It's an old book, but it's a gem. Just so in case you want to reference it, he's on my recommended reading list. So, but also I recommend this book if you happen to be a meditator and you've been meditating for, maybe more than a year, or if you've been meditating for 10 or 20 or 30 years, and you're still not enlightened, you might want to check out Stephen Harrison. Yes. So I'll do a few short readings just so you know what I'm reading from. But to begin, let's just sit or lie down. Just make yourself comfortable. Just begin to slow down and prepare to enter into your own personal and private inner domain. Let us sit in the center of the circle. Let us begin to cultivate silent listening. Now yoga. This reading comes from a chapter titled Born Naked, Cold, and Hungry, and then it gets worse. The show is over when we realize it is a show. When we see clearly that the story is a story, that the storyteller is a story, that the me is a story. Then the curtain falls. The applause is deafening only in its absolute silence. We have discovered that at the core of our existence is not a center, but like the proverbial onion, as we strip away each layer, in the end, we come to nothing. Nothing is the center of our existence. There is no one at the core. We may use the word nothing here, but it is not the word that is at our core. We could as easily say that at our center is everything. We could say it is love or consciousness or a vast field of awareness in which everything arises, including the very idea of our separate self. What is at the core is not in language. It is not a subject or object. It is not in thought or word of any kind. It is not divided, so it cannot be objectified. It is not possessed, so it cannot be mine. Here at last, we find life itself. Being without doing, a script gone silent, the greatest story ever untold. So let's not take Stephen's word for this idea that we do not have a center. Let's just begin our practice And I invite you to try to find your center. So relax your face, relax the spaciousness behind your eyes, relax your jaw muscles, your tongue, your palate. Relax any pressure you're feeling on the inside of your skull. Relax your throat. And just drift a bit. Just drift. Draw your energy, your senses, your chatter. Just draw everything inwardly. And just take a few moments and see if indeed you can find a center. Okay, well, I didn't think so. So come on up. Well, you don't even have to come up really if you're down. Get yourself a small bolster. And if you don't have a small bolster, just fold up a blanket so it's about the height of this bolster. We just want a little bit of height and a little bit of firmness to compress a little bit into the hip flexors, the psoas, kind of below the navel and above the pubic bone. And what I would like to invite you to do is lie over this bolster. So we'll just put the bolster side to side. So we're going to place, like I said, the just the pubic bone area below the navel, and come on to the forearms. So we're coming into a supported sphinx pose here. Just don't have the blanket or the bolstering on your belly. So let the belly relax. You probably can't see it, but this belly that I have here is able to relax a bit. So I have the hips elevated a tiny bit and the belly can relax. So make sure it's down low enough. And then just come onto your forearms. So the elbow is directly under the shoulder. Open the legs so they're a little bit beyond the hips. You can open them a lot beyond the hips, but at least a little bit. So you could maybe sway those hips a little bit and just come into it, just settle in. We want to commit to moving very slowly. So just kind of feel this, what's being evoked here by applying this, hopefully somewhat gentle compression. If it's not so gentle and you're feeling a little unsafe, you can just bring the body down a bit. So you can just flare the elbows out. So you can, bringing the elbows under the shoulders. Yes, compression, flaring them out a little bit. You can bring the upper body down. So just kind of play with that. No, I'd like you to just add a little bit of movement and a little bit of breath, and just have this be intuitive. To begin, what I'm thinking is to inhale and do it nice and slow. So this is a very long, deep inhalation, slower the better, and bring the chest up and back a little bit, maybe even the chin up a little bit. So we're inhaling a bit of density now and more compression into the lumbar, and then exhale and drop the head and the shoulders down. You can stay on the forearms, but just drop the head and the shoulders down and really keep exhaling. Especially with this compression down low, you may feel a little contraction the more you exhale. And just begin a very nice slow rhythm here, really feeling like you're, directing the compression with the movement and the breath. So you can back off a little bit, hold it a little bit deeper. So at each end of the breath, on the end of the inhale, we'll hold it a little bit and just really let it seep in, let the compression and the density really weave together. And the same thing on the exhalation. The exhalation is more for a release. So we let the breath out. We release the diaphragm upwards towards the chest and the heart. And then on the rotation of the inhale, the diaphragm is now pulling down towards the stomach and the lower solar plexus. Along the way, you could also let the head go side to side or any direction to kind of feel how you're feeling with neck mobility here. So like I said, just let it be intuitive. And then if you would like, it's very interesting to switch up the breath. And what I mean by that is when you lower down, inhale. And then when you come on up, shoulders and head and chest up, exhale. And if you can get very sensitive, you can sort of feel that movement or a sense of restriction up under the rib cage with the solar plexus. But don't, if it feels too complicated, don't even worry about it. We're just really wanting the breath, the movement, the body, the awareness, all to, to really just start to blend together. Good. And the next time you come down, whether you're inhaling or exhaling, let's come off the forearms completely and just let the chest come to the floor. You can put your head on a little blanket or on your hands if you'd like. And if you're still feeling the compression from the bolster or the blanket that you put down below the navel, just bring some breath down there as well. And then nice and slowly, just draw yourself back into the child's pose. So you can remove your bolstering. We won't need it for now, and just come back, and any child's pose that feels comfortable, you can keep the knees together if you'd like. You can open them out a bit to relax the hips. You can place the arms forward. You can bring the arms to your side. Just come to a child's pose that feels very just nice and restorative, but you're also remembering that this is countering that backward bend in a very mild forward bend. So we're really just, we're just easing into this lower back area that just somehow manages to hold so much of our, tension that radiates throughout the body. So I really want to appreciate and be very sensitive with this part of the body. Good. So let's come on forward again, slide forward back onto your belly, and again to those forearms. So the elbow is under the shoulder. And we're going to come into a shoulder compression now. So resting on this right forearm, so you have some support. And you may want to have a little, I have a little pillow or towel or bolster up for your head. So the position will be in, has the potential to strain the neck a little bit, and I'd rather bring the focus into the shoulder. So from here, take the left hand arm and slide it right under that right armpit, and then relax down onto the left shoulder.
the tendency will be to want to roll off of this, roll over to the left side. Try to resist that. So what I like to do is keep this right arm forward so this right shoulder can relax to the right. So this is going to give the body weight into the compression of this left shoulder. And the same thing with the right hip. Try not to let it roll up. And then you could let the neck dangle if you want. It doesn't quite work for me. It's just a distraction. So I'd bring a pillow. That's perfect. So you've got again, the weight of really both shoulders, but more this right shoulder compressing into the left shoulder. You can adjust this arm, pull it in a little bit, relax it out, make adjustments that you need. Make sure the head and the neck feel very supported. Relax the legs. Sometimes even it's nice to bend this right leg up, and this sort of evens out the hips a little bit and gives you a little bit more support. So you can bend the right leg up a little bit. And then we will just sink into this complexity of this left shoulder girdle. Just, an ongoing reminder. It's so lovely to remember this, especially when we are taking the time to explore ourselves in this way that's so, personal and intimate, and, our feelings and our sensations and our thoughts are all, slowing down enough so we can really examine them. But the reminder really is to remember that the language, the words that I use are simply that. They're just pointers, that they are symbolic and only symbolic of what you're actually feeling. So on some level, there is no such thing as a shoulder girdle, and no such thing as hips. So we want to just take the label, allow it to really orient us, but then let the label dissipate and really allow yourself to be absorbed into what you're feeling. Oftentimes if we hold the labels, we think there's a cause and effect or a linear progression that we can do, based on alignment or whatever, but there's not. This is your body at its essence, just expressing something energetic, expressing something direct. And it's the directness and the rawness of your experience that you really want to allow, not to do anything with it, but just allow it. So dropping the labels and sinking in, this is the reminder.
And really what we're exploring and why we, de-emphasize the language and the intellect and even the alignment is because we're beginning to cultivate a trust and an understanding that there is an intelligent knowing, that an intelligent knowing is a primary reality of embodiment. Yeah, let me say that again, that an intelligent knowing is I'm going to say the primary reality of embodiment, and conceptualizing, verbalizing is not embodiment. So we get to make this beautiful distinction of embodiment is embodiment. This is the physical hatha yoga. Conceptualizing is something else. And it's within this embodiment that there is this intelligent knowing. So this is why I opened with this lovely phrase of silent listening. And we're listening, but many, many layers of that onion get peeled to the listening that is really just an energetic, vibratory, intuitive listening. And if you're not sure what I'm talking about, this is good. This is doesn't mean you're not getting it. Quite the contrary. This means there is a relaxation of the intellect, a relaxation of the need to know, and we are entering into this domain where the intelligence of the body is able to, just able to inform us, really.
Good. So you can use this right arm, if you have it up front, to just give you some support. So just press up on it, and let's draw that left arm out from under. Yeah. And let's just stay on the forearms for a bit and let that shoulder release a bit. So you may want to, again, bring the head and chest up, bring the head and chest down, just have a little bit of movement. So we'll just take our time before we move to the other shoulder. Maybe sway the hips a little bit is always nice to just feel any kind of holding or density in the sacral pelvis. And then when you're ready, we'll stay on now, of course, obviously, this left forearm. Take the right arm, slip it under, relax on this right shoulder now. So the left arm is going to stay forward. We're going to try not to this time to roll over to the right. That would be the temptation. So you keep all of this down. Something for the head, if you need it on this side, yes. You can bring this time the left leg up a bit to square off the hips and get comfortable there. But again, try not to roll back over. So keep left hip, left shoulder down. So we're compressing into this, let's just call it this area.
You know, it's interesting, in a way, yoga presents us with just a fascinating container with this idea of embodiment and conceptualizing. Because for most of us, and especially in this modern age, you know, our capacity and our need and our addiction to conceptualizing has really dominated. You know, our left brain, our intellect has just come so incredibly dominant. So in a way, what yoga is suggesting, this container of yoga, is even start to explore what embodiment means. You know, can you allow the body to feel itself without the overlay of chatter, without the superimposition of conceptualizing and all of these, you know, semantic labyrinths, and just be embodied? And it's not as simple as it sounds, and we get to explore that. And yoga is saying, then the more we get embodied, the more we start to actually feel and embrace embodiment. This is a form of intelligence that can guide us. This is really what I love so dearly about yoga. You know, not so much being more flexible and having, you know, feeling good in the body, which is great, but that we're activating and cultivating a guidance system that will just serve us in every area of our life for as long as we live. Allowing yourself to appreciate the breath actually starting to slow down, and the subtle movement of the breath, you know, in and throughout the body. So very different when we slow down the breathing, just a sort of a mechanical in and out. But as we start to relax deeper in, we begin to relax the rhythm of the breath. We can start to feel that it has a capacity to, you know, move into the body. You know, feel the entire body breathing slowly and in a very relaxed way. And the other thing to remember is just simply keep relaxing. very often different tensions, or whether they're mental or emotional or physical. Sometimes they're building out of habits that we have and we're not even aware of it. It seems normalized, but just always remembering to relax. Nothing is amiss.
Good. So once again, let's have some support from this left arm. You can just push yourself up just a bit, draw the right arm out from under. And now we won't stay on the forearms, but let's just draw yourself right back into that child's pose again. That's kind of where we did after the backward bend. So back to child's pose just for a bit here. And again, whichever's most comfortable. And you may want to just bring the hips a little over each heel, back and forth, a little bit of passive motion. And then when you're ready, you can stretch back out, turn over, and lie down on your back. And we'll take a bit of a rest here before we move on. And while you're resting, I see that someone, every once in a while, I see this, that someone has a raised, it says raised hand on my screen. But just to know that I don't really answer these, because it would just really sort of challenge the flow, and I'm not even sure I would know how to do it actually to communicate with you with the screen. So my recommendation is just to take care of yourself. If you don't understand something by looking at what I'm doing or listening, then just really rest or try to approximate it. You know, the poses with the yin approach are always just suggestive. They're meant to honor your skeletal variation, your muscular tension. So as long as you're feeling something, you're getting some benefit. First and foremost, though, you want to feel safe. So if it feels a little unsafe, you know, we're in order to work with pain effectively and discomfort effectively, we must feel safe. So always check in with that. And then obviously I can always answer the question after class, whatever it happens to be. So yeah, so that's that with the raised hand. Okay, so what I would like you to do is stay on your back and get something that you can use for some weight. I'm going to use this small bolster. And if you don't have the small bolster, it's kind of like the perfect weight. Then get a couple of blankets that have some weight to them, or just something, you know, bigger pillow that has some weight to it. We're just going to weight the twist. So just being flat on your back, just bring the knees up to the chest, both knees up to your chest. And we're going to let them go over to the left. And then on this right leg, we're going to put some weight on it. So as you can maybe see, I'm just putting this weighted bolster on top of the right leg, just a tiny bit below the knee. And then I want to leave the right shoulder on the floor. Try not to let the shoulder come up too much. It can come up a little bit, but the more we keep it down, the more it accentuates the twist. So this is meant to keep the knees up as high as possible. So keep the knees up if you can, and then weight them so the knees don't open. And also just the weight will add a little bit more compression into this twist. Then allow the right arm to just come out and relax so it's perpendicular to your body. So you're just straightening out the right arm and look over to that right hand. So we're initiating a little bit of a neck twist to the right, and then the lumbar twist over to the left. But just be careful with that with the head. So it could just, you know, just use the weight of the skull to draw you there.
And again, feeling the weight that we're applying on top of that right leg, mostly for stability, so we can keep the knees nice and high, get a little bit of a deeper twist. And then also for the weight itself, so you can make any little, adjustments that you need to get it just right. Let your breath relax. Let all of your mind chatter relax. And just simply observe that this exploration of embodiment, it's not an either or, kind of exploration. There's just a whole host of complex interactions between your sensations, your mind, your thoughts, your emotions, your body. So we're not looking to compartmentalize things and study them, from a distance. You can actually feel that all of these sensations and thoughts and emotions and body are all in a very interesting state of complexity. So sink in, drop all of those labels, feel whatever is arising. So if you do have the weight on that right leg, let's you can just remove it and put it over to the other side. And then let's bring both legs up. And before we go over to the other side, it just takes some time here. You can pull the knees into the chest. You can open the legs up so the feet are above the head, maybe open them a bit, just kind of just have some playful movement here. Good. And then when you're ready, again, we're going to bring the knees up to the chest, try to keep them relatively, well, whatever works for you. And then have your weight ready. And we'll put that weight over the left knee now. So I have it right below the knee. One end is flopping over my left shin. The other one is up on my left thigh. And then check in to see if the left shoulder now is rolled up too much, just compromising the angle. Try to relax it down. Let the arm extend out. And if you're open to this, just bring the head towards so you're looking out over that left hand. But you can kind of play with that. I know that can be a little tedious. So it's just to sort of connect both angles of twist here. So we're now twisting from the cervical spine down through into the lumbar spine. It just can be an interesting way to feel the connection of them. and this is precisely why yoga is really considered a science, because we are indeed taking out our magnifying glasses and observing ourselves with great precision and delicacy. I was saying in class on Friday, speaking of the interactions and the complexity of the interactions, that the mind is simply a collection of thoughts. So we get to observe that. We get to observe, what is the mind if we don't use the thinking process to access it. So what is that interrelationship? And same thing with the body. How is it that a sensation that starts at a very neutral vibratory place can morph into a feeling, an emotion, something painful, something pleasurable? How does that come about? So this is why the patience and the curiosity is such an important part of this practice. We're not in a linear exploration of cause and effect. We're really trying to sit in the center of the circle with a humble demeanor of I do not know, and just explore what it is directly that our experience is telling us, and really get to trust and know this direct experience. Good. So once again, you can remove the weight off of the leg. Bring those legs up. Bring the head back to a nice straight neutral upper spine. Have a little intuitive movement to sway things out. Wiggle and wobble a bit. And then you can straighten everything out, and we will take a rest before we move on. The other thing with exploring this this idea of embodiment that yoga invites us to, and again, this is something to verify directly, but my experience has been is as close to absolutely true as I've been able to come, is that the body will always tell us the truth. So we can have a lot of conflicting concepts, a lot of conflicting information. And it's very interesting. What I see going on in our modern culture is that we become more and more stressful, and then we have so many modalities and offerings to reduce the stress, but just the search for these and the exploration of how do I reduce my stress tends to create more stress. So the willingness to slow down and listen to the body and learn the language of the body, the fibers of the body, the fluids of the body, the movement, the intelligence, the pulsation of the body, and to really start to embody, to feel that, to trust its wisdom and to trust its truth. And not that we don't want to, you know, certainly incorporate and use our understanding and our concepts, but we want to have a balance. We don't want to rely just on the external information. We want to feel what's happening. When we drink a glass of water, we want to really feel that. So very, very important for not only for our health, but I think ultimately for this, you know, the awakening process that is at the foundation of yoga, to discover who we really are. We can't, you know, just transcend the body, transcend the mind, although ultimately we do. We need to slow down enough and be in the process. Okay, so let's come on up. And I'm going to use the big bolster, but you could indeed, I was actually doing this right before we started. I was trying this with my two pillows here. So I have two pillows that pretty much, when you squish them down, as you can see, they're pretty much the same size as the big bolster. So I'll show it with the big bolster, but you can do the same thing with the pillows. Yeah. So what we're going to offer here is a couple of things. Oh, I'm going to need a towel, but I have cat on towel, so I'm going to have to disturb cat. That's never a good thing. Oh, there goes my karmic score, huh? Disturbing a cat. Okay, so a nice bolster going horizontally. And your choice, the reason I wanted this blanket, because if you're using the bolster, and even those pillows are quite significant, you may want to sit up on some padding. So sitting up on some padding obviously elevates the hips, doesn't make this as deep. And then if you want to take it out or add it during the posture, you can. So I'm going to offer two versions of this. The first version is to put the feet on the floor, put the bolster in the lower back, so the shoulders can drape over it. So that's the same thing. If you're using the pillows, don't have so many pillows that the shoulders are supported and the head is supported. So we want all of this to drape back. Yeah. And my head's either touching the floor or, dare I disturb that cat, we just put something under the head. Yeah. And then you can kind of, you know, squiggle down a little bit, get a little bit more into the mid back. As long as the shoulders are up, squiggle back down, get more into the lower back. So that's the first version. If you're interested in a little bit more intensity, or maybe a lot more intensity, you could still sit on the blanket or not, but what you can do is turn this into a saddle pose. So typically I offer the saddle pose and I put the bolster long ways or the pillows so it supports the whole torso. This is a little different. There'll be it's pretty intense, just let's put it that way. So especially for the knees, be careful, the quadriceps. But if you would like to bend the knees back, put the bolster crossways, horizontally, and then come into the same pose. Yeah. So it's lovely if your body can tolerate it. Again, something for your head. Maybe not. My back of my head is on the floor, which is fine. Yeah. The only thing, if you're going to attempt this intensity, make sure it is not your ego deciding, but your body. Always more important to stay in for a longer time than let the ego say, oh, I can do that, or I should be able to do that, and then have to come in and out and, you know, feel unsafe. So either sitting on the floor, then the legs drape out so the knees are relaxed, bigger bolster in the lower back, or a couple of pillows in the lower back, shoulders over it, and just settle in. And then you can have the blanket either ready to go to pull it under your hips, to sit on it, to alleviate some of the compression, or if you started with it, at some point you might want to remove it. Although I guess kitty karma is better than dogma, huh? So I'll have to deal with that kitty karma. And again, this remembering to relax is certainly at a physical anatomical level, it has tremendous benefits, but also it helps us to remember that we're not trying to do something. We're not trying to fix anything. We're attempting to explore this, this dynamic of embodiment and how we really experience it. Also, the relaxation allows us to, really appreciate the qualities of the yin. So we do know that the yang energies, just in general, they tend towards complexity. The qualities of yin tend towards simplicity. However, if we take this a little bit further, that the simpler it gets, then the deeper it gets. Complexity is a wonderful, wonderful thing if we, want to build bridges, we want to write books. So we want to appreciate the capacity of complexity and intellect. But the capacity for simplicity allows depth. It allows us to go deeper in our yoga, in our meditations, in our life, even in the moment. So all we really need for this, process of self-discovery, of self-awareness, of awakening, is to relax, to come into a place of stillness and silence, and to witness. And so don't feel like this needs to be static completely. If you need to, or even would like to, for the sake of exploring and curiosity, you can put your feet on the floor and just move the body either up or down. Even an inch or a couple of inches can make a difference. So if you feel muscular tension building and you're starting to tolerate it or borderline struggle, don't. Make a little micro adjustment. Let the density of the body guide you. And this may be a little bit more challenging with the pillows, but still you can make sure they're still in a good place and make some subtle shifts. We don't really listen to me. We don't listen to what we think the posture should be. We listen to how the body is responding, what's being evoked. And if we want to make subtle adjustments, or sometimes not so subtle adjustments, sometimes we just need to completely come out, lie down, cover up, and fall asleep for 10 minutes. And that's what the body wants. That's what will be most beneficial. Relax, be silent, be a witness. Take a nice, deep, full inhale breath. And just inhale for just a couple of beats more than you usually do, and hold it at the end. Just for 2 or 3 beats, just hold it. And exhale really slowly, but again, a little bit longer than you usually do. And at the end of the exhale, hold it. And then let that exhale inform the next inhale. And again, fill up the lungs, feel some resistance, a little bit deeper, and hold it. Just hold it and feel it. And again, release it. And just release it till you feel a little bit of contraction in the lower belly somewhere. Really release it, release it. And then just keep this rhythm for a few more cycles. And again, at this depth, imagine that you're breathing into your whole body, because you are breathing into your whole body. You are breathing into every single cell of your body that thrives on this oxygen as energy and nutrition. So breathe into every nook and cranny, brain, heart, gut, toes, knees, eyes, tongue. Just breathe, feel it, be alive. The simplicity of just being present and grounded in the body, very powerful. And then just start to have a little movement here. Be especially cautious if you do have your knees bent back. You want to address the undoing of the knees. And what I would like to do before we actually come out of this, so just a little bit of movement, but if you have the knees bent, you need to release the knees first before you can do this. But what I would like to do is just roll over onto the left rib cage, yeah? And just stretch that right arm up over the head. So this is a lovely way to safely release, but also kind of let the release of the back line morph into the intercostal muscles of the rib cage and just get a lateral flexion of the spine as well. Yeah, so just onto the ribs. If you're up in the armpit or in the waist, you may want to get onto the broad part of the rib cage. And then you can go to the other side and go onto the right ribs and the same thing. So just take some time here, just enjoy this. And this is just a lovely position to do on its own to hold for a couple of minutes, but we'll use the benefit of the movement here. So you can go back and forth a couple of times. If you can, when you come over onto it, if you can drop the head down as well, it's really nice because this extends the lateral flexion, especially if you're feeling some tightness and some, hesitation in the neck area and the upper spine, the neck mobility. Really let the head drop. Don't hurt yourself, but if it's if it's tight or dense or painful, there's a good reason for that, and this is what we're here for, is to investigate these reasons. Yeah, so just back and forth a couple of times. And then when you're ready, you can come off of this. So when you start to roll, just keep rolling, come off and come into a Shavasana. We'll rest for a bit before we move on. So make yourself as comfortable as you can. I'll be right back. So I'm going to share the other reading that I mentioned from Getting to Where You Are. we are walking, using our new skills as meditators. We are paying attention to the pain in our foot, noticing pain, noticing pain, noticing pain. We are very happy that we have reached this choiceless awareness of our pain. We just notice it. It is just pain. This must be what enlightenment is like. This is not enlightenment. Let's take the rock out of our shoe. Pain isn't just an object of awareness. It is also a message, a call to action, a thread that, if followed, leads to a deeper understanding and a deeper expression of our lives. So that is so beautiful, and it is so captures the essence of this yin approach to our hatha yoga. Pain isn't just an object of awareness, it is also a message, a call to action, a thread that, if followed, leads to a deeper understanding and a deeper expression of our lives. And so what the yoga is really proposing is this doesn't just happen automatically. We don't just adopt a mythology or a philosophy or a religion and a collection of, a conceptual framework and just superimpose this on the pain or the discomfort or the suffering even. What the yoga is suggesting is this is a journey of embodiment. This is a journey of how to evoke the pain, how to let the pain be front and center and present, and sit with it safely, but sit with it and listen to the message that it's here to bring you. And, if we, sidetrack into psychology just a bit, most of our symptoms, I hesitate to say all of our symptoms, but most of our symptoms are some manifestation of a repression. So something that got either physically embedded, psychologically, some emotional traumas that got embedded, imprinted in the system, are wanting release or wanting to express themselves so we can then bring release and healing. So it's really coming into a very, 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 very intelligent relationship with the discomfort that we're feeling. Hence why this practice suggests that we come into these poses and feel the discomfort without going too far that we want to be distracted or push it away or continue the repression. Often, if we're not careful dealing with emotional, psychological, or physical discomfort, if we don't feel safe, it just causes more repression. So it's fundamentally about our relationship to the discomfort, not getting rid of it. If it goes, it goes. Sometimes it does. It switches around, it changes, but it's not primary to our, to what we're exploring is to getting rid of the discomfort. It's listening to its wisdom. Okay, so let's come on up, please, if you will, and make yourself comfortable. And we're going to bring the soles of the feet together. And we're coming into this forward bend, not lengthening and stretching, but relaxing and softening. So it's an arching. So it's a connection with the weight of the upper body that starts to draw us in and down. Yes. If you're feeling particularly restricted, sometimes, very often, it's the pelvis tilting back. So that's a restriction in addition to the intrinsic muscles. So you can always sit up on the edge of something. Yeah. So when I say the edge, I really mean the edge. If I just sat up on this blanket, it would just maintain the same pelvic angle. By sitting on the edge of it, you can see my pelvis start to tilt. Yeah, it is tilting. So that's releasing some of the restriction that I have. Then more of the, like I said, the intrinsic muscles. Drop your head down and just really try to soften into this. It's a relatively simple backward bend, but it's highly specific to the lumbar area. So don't go too far, too deep, too quickly.
And again, even in a simple position like this, simple, yes, but the sensations of the body are being evoked. Um, be intelligent with the discomfort. Always find to release a little bit, to withdraw, soften, relax, feel safe, and then go back in or not. So you're really the only one that knows what you're feeling. So we don't want to, we don't want to spiritualize the discomfort or the pain. Sometimes we want to take the rock out of the shoe. Okay, good. So let's come up from here and just open both legs for a moment. I'm going to give you a choice of forward bends. They're pretty different, so see what you think. The first one would just to do a square pose, which would to bring the left leg in towards you and to put the right foot up onto the left calf. Yep. And if this is not accessible up onto the calf, you can always put it on the floor in front. So just a simple square pose. If you can bring it up onto the calf, that would be great. So that's option number one. Your choice. This is not so much for the, well, indirectly for the hips, yes, but not as much as the next one I'll show you. The second one, or the second choice, would be to take the left leg and draw it under the right leg. And I'm going to bring that left foot a little bit towards that right hip, but don't sit on that left heel. And then take the right leg, bring it up and over the left leg, and bring it back towards the left hip. Yep. And again, try not to sit on the heels. So this now obviously is torquing, internally rotating. For me, this is much more for the hips. And then we'll come forward. So either come forward if you're doing the second choice, the full shoelace pose. Seems a bit like a pretzel to me, but yep, but still a nice forward bend for the lower back. Or you've come into the simple square pose of foot up onto the left calf or out in front. And the same thing, a very relaxed, unengaged muscles of the lower back, and just soften into it. And just so I'm clear, when I say something like a symptom or the discomfort ultimately is a manifestation of something that is repressed, I want to emphasize that this, when we're working with the body, we're also working with consciousness. And this is not a linear process. So we're not looking for cause and effect. We're not because this would be intellectualizing, and nothing wrong with this. This is therapy, though. So we have therapy, we have yoga, we have spiritual practice. When we're doing our yoga, we're more interested in the more organic flow. How does it feel? So if something arises, we just observe it. We just become curious about it.
But there's what I'm suggesting is there's not necessarily a linear connection between what I'm feeling, what's arising, and what was repressed on a mental or biological memory level. So we want to be careful about that. So yes, we want to do our therapy, we want to do our spiritual practice, but our yoga is really wide open just for the sense of flow. And then whatever comes up, we just observe it. We just observe it, we just observe it. We take out our magnifying glass and explore it if we like or not, and just feel it. And this is a beautiful thing to really embrace and embody, the sort of the quantum aspect of the body, the quantum coherence of the body, the way that it is communicating and it's connected. Is the role of how memory gets embedded, and there's just again, it's contemplating those complex interactions of thoughts and memories and sensations and feelings and emotions.
Good. So let's gently roll up, articulate the spine out.
And whichever position you're in, the square or the shoelace, just untangle it all, let the legs relax out for a moment. Yeah, so let's go right into the other side. So this time, obviously, we just reverse it. If you're going to do the square, the right leg would come in and the left foot would either stay out front, but if you're able to bring it up, bring it up. And then we'll go into forward bend. If you want to do the other side of the shoelace, take the right foot leg, put it under the left one, bring that foot back towards the left hip, but don't sit on the heel. Bring the left leg up and over. And here we go. And come forward. And just keep in mind, you don't have to match size. So if you did square and you want to do shoelace, the second side, please do. If you did shoelace and you want to do square, being symmetrical is just not important in this practice, because we understand that the fascial system is itself not linear, and that wherever we compress has a direct reverberation throughout the whole system. So this is just an ongoing and very deep study. I was saying on Friday that the current people now studying connective tissue are calling it a living matrix. So it's living, it's responsive, it's intelligent. So we're not in sort of an anatomical symmetry in this practice, like some practices, Yang practices, emphasize alignment. We're more into the effect of the compression throughout the whole system. So yes, you may feel pockets of density that the posture is evoking, and that's purposeful, but also we want to feel that vibration throughout the whole body. And I do mean the whole body, the entirety of the body. This fascial network, this living matrix, is extremely prominent and ubiquitous everywhere in the body. So we earlier opened up our practice with the inquiry of, can you find your center? So another way, another sort of line of inquiry is, where do you experience yourself? And no need to even define that yourself. So not necessarily, self-image, but just this sense of self. Yes, this sense I am aware, I am conscious. And so from there, where do you experience what you call myself? And so again, let's come on up from here. And we'll let the legs open. If you have the shoelace, untie the shoelace and just let both legs open. And then what I'd like to do is go back to where we began this forward bending. So just bring, again, the soles of your feet together. So this time towards the end here, if you would like, you can put something under the knees. Yeah, just elevates the femurs a bit, not so much pressure in the hips or the knees. So it's even more isolating. I said that without it, it was isolating. So this allows you to really soften it. So this is just optional for you if you'd like. Soles of the feet together, either with the behind the knees supported or not, and we'll come back in to complete this forward bending where we started. And also we slow down our breathing and calm the breathing and deepen the breathing. So ultimately we start to free the breathing. The difference between walking around with a contracted respiratory diaphragm and a free flowing respiratory diaphragm, the difference between simply breathing in the upper part of the chest in a habitual, tight, mechanical way and continually connecting and feeling the release of the exhalation. This is the difference between being locked in your breathing and feeling free in your breathing. And this is what we endeavor to free up the breathing. So for a yogi, our breathing really is our singing. The joy that we get from singing is the same joy we can start to feel from breathing. So we start to do it consciously, slowly, with no goal or agenda, except to simply feel it, to feel the presence of the breath. Good, so let's come on up from here. And let's lie down and take a rest. Oh boy. I'm so sorry, but I need one of these blankets. I know. I need a blanket though. So I'll just give you an example in my own practice, in my own life, this dynamic of how symptoms can manifest from something that's repressed in the system. And this goes back to when I was making a very interesting and conscious shift in my yoga practice from very sort of active and dynamic yang styles when I discovered and fell in love with yin. So one of the things that I felt was repressed was this sort of addiction to perfectionism. And this is apparent in a lot of, physical modalities, but also in a lot of strong styles of yoga. They actually have yoga competitions and things. And so what I started to be able to discover and really explore was that ultimately that the perfectionism was on some level a rejection of myself, that I wasn't good enough. There was something missing. And the quality of the yin and the really going into a sense of embodiment started to reveal that the perfectionism is really a rejection of oneself. Acceptance is loving oneself. And this is the quality of the yin, is the receptivity, the acceptance, the exploring reality, one's life moment to moment, one's practice, one's body, one's self-image, exactly how it is. So it wasn't necessarily, although there were elements of, well, this physical symptom, this discomfort translated into this insight in a linear kind of way. It was more this sort of morphing of like, oh yes, there's an energy here that I'm feeling that's manifesting physically, that's representative of this disease of perfectionism. And so the yin encouraged me and gave me space for acceptance. And the acceptance was then loving oneself as one is. And so this is just an example of how, this practice is a very, very deep one. So way beyond, again, like I say, not just about physical release, being more flexible and less pain in the body, although that is certainly a consequence. Okay, so let's come on up. Enough about me. So this next thing I want to show you, you need to roll up a blanket. I don't do this very often, and I used to do a version of this with the balls, but we don't have the balls. Maybe someday everyone will get balls and we can. But this is very, very interesting. So I took a blanket, kind of like a nice heavy blanket if you have one, or if you have towels, maybe 2 towels, roll it up nice and tight so it's not all floppy, but it has a nice density to it. Yep. So I'm not suggesting the small bolster. If you have a small bolster, this doesn't work very well with a small bolster. Need to have sort of something firm. Yep. Okay. So what we're going to do then is you're going to keep this, move this cat. You're going to keep this between your legs. I'm going to explain it as best I can. You're going to keep this between your legs, and you're sitting up, and it's right between your legs, and you can see it. And then you can lie down on your back, okay? So flat on your back, and just bring it so you can grab it. So I just caught it with my feet and pulled it up so you can, I have it on my left hand, and then have a hold of it. And then with the feet firmly on the floor, elevate the hips and draw it directly under your buttocks so it catches right at the bottom of the lumbar spine. Don't bring it way, way up so where it's L1, L2. Keep it a little lower than that, yeah? So this is mainly for compression into the sacral area, and then it kind of reverberates into the pelvis. It's quite lovely. So again, flat on my back, elevate my pelvis, pull this roll in a vertical way. So it's coming up between the buttocks into the sacral area, maybe the 2 or 3 lower lumbar vertebrae or so for stability. Yeah, so then set it there and then let the legs relax out. Oh, yeah. So wider than the hips, yes. Can I open the hips a bit, pull the pelvic ligaments a bit, and this is resting and compressing right into the sacral area. If this is too much for you, roll off of it, unroll it a little bit. Yeah, don't suffer and struggle. This is a highly sensitive area, and the ligamentation between the sacrum and the pelvis is sometimes, some people call it fused, but those of us that really know fascia don't really believe in fused so much. Yeah. So what we're going to do is we'll stay here for a while. Let's just stay here for a while so I don't confuse you with more instruction. Oh, yeah, just that little bit, yeah. So just relax. And this would be a lovely position and a lovely time to breathe very, very slowly, as low as you can, down into the low belly, down into the reproductive area, right down into this this sacral spine. This is where this sacrum is where the lumbar sets on. So all of this tension, all of these ligaments of the pelvis, feel as if the breath is just kind of weaving, just kind of flowing. There's a softness and a gentleness to the breath that can just saturate this area with gentleness and softness and loving kindness, acceptance.
Good. So another thing that you can do here, which is lovely, and it can affect a psoas release, or at least sort of get into that area and loosen up a bit. Or you can stay right where you are. So if you're in an interesting, sensitive place with this, with just leaving the legs still, please stay right where you are. If you'd like to explore this bit of a psoas release, what you can do, and I'm leaning up just so I can see and relate a bit and make sure you can hear me, but keep, the upper body down. So your only thing you're going to move is the legs, and you can bring the feet up. And if the blanket extends down enough, put the feet on either side of the roll of the blanket and let the knees relax to each side. So it's sort of like that butterfly position when we do the forward bend with the soles of the feet together and then both legs relaxing down. If your blanket's not long enough, you can just put the soles of the feet together here. And then what I suggest is go from feeling the full weight of both knees relaxing, and then just bringing the legs up maybe like 2 to 4 inches, not so the top of the knees are pointing to the ceiling all the way up, but just bring them up a couple of inches so you feel the weight then starts to kind of quiver into the hips, and let them quiver a bit. And you can go between this. So hold this for, however long you would like. I'll just let you go at your own pace here, and then relax them back down, let the hips take the weight again. And you can bring them up 2 or 3 inches, maybe 4 inches, just enough to sort of you're holding it. And then there's a little fatigue happening and they may start to quiver. Yeah. And then you relax them back down. Oh yeah. And when I say relax them back down, I'm not saying straighten the knees. I'm saying keep the soles of the feet on the side of the blanket, but just the weight of the legs goes back into the hips. And then you can go back and forth doing this. And then anytime you'd like, you can straighten those legs back out. But if you want to try this psoas release, give it a try. And again, letting the breath soften and saturate these areas, not using the breath to push or to manipulate. And I just want to say one more thing about the importance of really exploring our own sense of embodiment and discerning the reality that embodiment is not conceptualizing. Conceptualization is not embodiment. So I think one of the dynamics, and I'm just going to speak globally now, is one of the primary confusions and frustrations in our modern age, in our current world, is the fact that thought cannot capture life. Thought cannot capture life itself. And this becomes extremely confusing and extremely frustrating. So we want to have a practice where we're embodying life, where we're feeling life. And this is in the
the direct contact with our experience, the direct contact with the moment as it's unfolding, direct contact with our breathing. Breathing is life. The pulsation of your heart is life. Feeling your aches and pains and your bones and your restrictions and your openness and the flow of your physical body is life. And to add to that, it cannot be captured. It cannot be completely conceptualized. This is why we have art. Why we have art is to take something that cannot be conceptualized, that cannot be captured in thought, and try to express it. And this is why good art comes from this consciousness, comes from this nothingness, comes from this open field of awareness, and it just comes through us. So the more we can be embodied, the more we can start to feel, this is life. I am alive. I don't have to capture it. I just have to experience it. I just have to express it. Good. So if you are still having the soles of the feet up against the blanket or each other, let's relax the legs out. And then you can bend your knees and put the feet flat on the floor. This is not a good one to bring the knees up to the chest, mostly for the balance, and it can be a little too compressive into the sacrum, depending and that connection up into the lumbar. So I would say just maybe move the knees side to side a little bit, maybe with the feet on the floor. Elevate the pelvis, the hips a couple of times, and then when you're ready, you can pull that roll out from under or pull it off to the side. And when you've come out of this, let's just go ahead and make yourself comfortable, and we'll come into our final Shavasana. If you choose, obviously you have the freedom to, you have the freedom to do whatever you want, but you could do a counter pose, come into Shavasana. You could sit up and sit with me, and we will close. And let us come full circle and sit together in the center of the circle. Silent listening. I thank you. I love you. I bless you. And namaste.